The Handmaiden has been called many things: elegant, sensual, romantic, erotic, and at times deeply disturbing. However, one of the aspects of the film that is often overlooked by most viewers is its humor. Now, it must be kept in mind that when we describe The Handmaiden as being humorous, we are not saying that it will make you laugh like this. Instead, The Handmaiden has a subtle, dark sense of humor which quietly sneaks up on you. In this video essay, we'll explore how Park Chan-wook brilliantly uses visual storytelling to add layers of humor to The Handmaiden. But first, a little bit of background. The Handmaiden is a South Korean film which was released in 2016. It was directed by visionary filmmaker Park Chan-wook, who is perhaps best known internationally for having made the operatic revenge thriller Old Boy. Set in Japanese-occupied Korea, The Handmaiden follows a con man who gets a young woman to help him seduce a rich heiress, only for their plan to fall apart when the two women start falling in love with each other. The film contains multiple instances of psychological manipulation, sexual exploitation, child abuse, and a particularly graphic torture scene. So the obvious question that comes up: how can a film like this have humor? Park Chan-wook is able to answer this question with two simple words: self-awareness. This approach of self-awareness not only lets Park introduce humor into such an unsettling story, but also allows him to provide commentary on the film's primary themes of patriarchal oppression and repressed female sexuality. Park's self-awareness manifests in all aspects of his visual storytelling. So let's take a closer look at each of them individually. Like most other period dramas, The Handmaiden has a lush and gorgeous cinematography. What sets it apart from the rest, however, is its playful self-awareness. You can see this self-awareness in the film's theatrical shot compositions, with cinematographer Chung Chung-hoon using techniques like symmetrical framing, frontal shots, and pivoting camera movements. These shots give the film's world a staged, almost artificial feel, adding a layer of irony to the whole thing. Park Chan-wook opts for a highly stylized editing style. This is especially evident in his choice of transitions. Most of the transitions in the film are either match cuts or visually intriguing cuts, such as these shots. These witty cuts enable Park to playfully deconstruct the narrative cliches of the genre. Perhaps the most noteworthy aspect of The Handmaiden's impressive mise-en-scène is the intricate costume and set design that help in creating the richly detailed world of the film. But on closer inspection, we realize that the costumes and set pieces, while true to the era the film is set in, have a touch of wit and twist. This makes them more than just pretty decorations. Park Chan-wook uses many of these objects, often in a subtly humorous manner, to symbolize the various themes of the film. Take the costume and makeup of Kozuki, for example. For a little bit of context, Kozuki is Lady Hideko's sadistic uncle who has basically kept her imprisoned in a mansion. He is obsessed with pornographic books and takes perverse pleasure in torturing people. He is one of the most repulsive characters you'll ever see on screen, but his over-the-top costume, like his bushy eyebrows and ink-soaked tongue, make him feel more like a dark comic relief than a true threat. We are going to be breaking down a single scene from The Handmaiden, which will highlight all the elements we have discussed so far. This particular scene, which is 8 minutes long, sees Lady Hideko, forced by her evil uncle Kozuki, reading aloud from a book of sadistic pornography to an audience of wealthy, lecherous men. What could have been an otherwise excruciating scene to watch, in the hands of Park Chan-wook, turns into one of the most audacious moments of dark humor in the history of cinema. It's not laugh-out-loud funny, but you can't help but smirk while watching the scene. The scene begins with a frontally framed shot of Lady Hideko, making the viewers feel like members of the lecherous audience for whom she is performing the reading. But before we can truly settle into the scene, it cuts to these almost overly symmetrical shots of the audience, making everything feel staged, reminding us that we are in fact watching a movie. In other words, it becomes self-aware. The exaggerated set design of the library furthers this notion of self-awareness. A fusion of Western and Eastern architecture, we see Victorian bookshelves and tatami mats juxtaposed against each other, creating a strange, otherworldly atmosphere. The mix of Western and Eastern design slyly mocks Kozuki's attempt to seem culture, but instead creates something grotesque, much like Kozuki himself. The scene gradually becomes more and more absurd until it verges into the territory of surrealism. As the men get aroused by Hideko's erotic reading, we actually get to see these men's perverse fantasies play out on screen. The suffocatingly patriarchal nature of the scene becomes increasingly outrageous and over the top, as scenes of Hideko reading are constantly intercut with scenes of these men's sexual fantasies. By the end of the scene, things are so ridiculously exaggerated and over the top that we can't take it seriously anymore. But make no mistake, this is exactly what Park Chan-wook intends. This is what we have been referring to throughout as the self-aware approach. With this self-awareness and a pitch-dark sense of humor, Park Chan-wook is able to give us a clever but nonetheless uncomfortable satirical caricature of male dominance and patriarchy. More often than not, directors aiming for profound art end up making films that are way too serious, self-indulgent, and honestly kind of boring. That's what makes Park Chan-wook a rare breath of fresh air. He can take an artistic masterpiece like The Handmaiden, filled with heavy, serious themes, and still make it entertaining with moments of humor.